Part 12 of the essentials, essential oils, their history and their use. First of all, just a reminder that the information that provided here is educational in nature, and it's just another tool in your wellness tool belt that you can use both for helping bring back to health as well as maintaining and keeping health. It's not medical advice, and anything that is given as a suggestion, you should conduct your own due diligence and make sure that it's going to work the way you expect it to for you, and take it or leave it as you desire, and that the information here is not exhaustively comprehensive. So just keep those things in mind as we go through today. Today we're going to be looking at hyssop, Hysopus officinalis. So this is the hyssop plant. It's a very beautiful plant. It can be grown in large quantities or in flower beds. And it can have different blossom types or colors associated with it. Psalm 51:7 refers to "Purge me with hyssop, and I shall be clean. Wash me, and I shall be whiter than snow." One of the things that it's useful for is as a cleanser, and it has a number of different applications and uses that it was referred to in Scripture. One other one is in Numbers 19:18, and a clean person will use hyssop and put it in water and sprinkle it upon the tent and upon all the vessels and upon the persons that were there, and upon him that touched a bone or one slain or one dead or a grave. So this was used in the Israelites' time for cleansing after a ritual cleansing after having touched someone who was dead or been near someone who had died. It also plays early on in the children of Israel Exodus history, and the term that Passover comes from when the angel of death passed over the children of Israel who had put the blood of the lamb, the Passover lamb, over the doorposts and the lintel of their dwellings. And if it was present, the angel would pass over it and maintain the firstborn's life. If not, then that firstborn in that family would pass away, would die. Exodus 12:22, "And ye shall take a bunch of hyssop and dip it in the blood that is in the basin, and strike the lintel and the two side posts with the blood that is in the basin. And none of you shall go out at the door of his house until the morning." So they were protected by that obedience, following the directive, and anyone who stayed inside with them during that evening was protected as well. So hyssop is a rather rare essential oil. It has purifying qualities as well as cleansing qualities. The Romans used it as a protection against plagues. So again, it has a number of different modalities and roles that it can play. And one is they seem to find benefits of it from protecting them from disease. In Leviticus, it's used and mentioned numerous times for ceremonial cleansings of people and homes, particularly around dead or leprosy and some things like that. The part of the plant that's used for the essential oil extraction is the leaf. So the leaf has a minty aroma to it, and the Hysop officinalis, the entire plant, is there on the lower right of the blue color, which is a common color of hyssop. Hyssop's key compounds are cis-pinylcamphophone, trans-pinylcamphophone, and beta-pinene. So the diagrams are there, cis and trans. The cis and trans refer to the positioning of molecular side chains, and they have different functions based on those positions. One thing that you want to be sure that you don't do is exceed the use of 30 drops in a day of hyssop essential oil, because it can actually end up in that quantity having a convulsive effect. So looking at cis and trans isomers, so an isomer essentially is a mirror image molecule. It has exactly the same chemical formula between one and the other. However, they're spatially arranged differently. For a cis bond, you have functional groups, which in this case is a methane, number 1 and 4 on the left-hand diagram. Those functional groups are in the same plane. They're both, for example, maybe tilted down on the ring that is shown in the diagram below. That's a different kind of a arrangement, a ring. So that's a carbon ring, 6-carbon ring with 2 chlorides in that case. And the above one is 2 methane groups. So 2 different molecules just being as examples here. So they're on the same side of the double bond for the bonds. Trans, on the other hand, is going to be, one's going to be projecting above the plane and one's going to be projecting below the plane. And in the double bond example here, it shows them diagonal to each other, as opposed to in the ring form. The dotted line indicates trans, and it's going to be indicating that the bond is either pointing up or down with reference to the plane versus the other chloride. So they're like 2 antennae that are functioning 2 different directions. So they have the same exact chemical formula. There are other types of isomers, the D and L isomers, which are left-handed and right-handed, but you have a whole other level of isomer, and that's in the cis and trans form of the molecules, the side chains projecting above and below the plane. So that has a different functional activity in that arrangement. So there's another level of complexity and information that is provided in these molecules that we're seeing here. And both molecules are actually present in the Hysop. The cis and the trans forms are in both, are in the Hysop. Typically, the D and the L isomers, one's going to be a bioactive and one's non-active, and only one will be made by the plant or the animal that is making a particular molecule. So this is kind of an interesting feature of Hysop, that it has both those forms present. So some things that typically happen with different isomers, they can have different functions because their structure is different. Structure and function go right together in the molecular world. So a cis isomer, again, is just an atom that has the functional group on the same side of the double bond, versus in a double bond, they would be on opposite corners or sides, or in a ring projecting above and below the plane. The arrangement of the atoms, 2 of the same atoms are on the same side of the double bond, versus 2 of the same atoms are on opposite sides of the double bond. Polarity differences. So this is going to make it able to pass through membranes easier or mix with water easier. So a polar molecule, the cis form, is going to mix with water easier. The mostly nonpolar is going to pass through lipid membranes easier because of its nonpolar status. So that's kind of an interesting thing. The melting points are going to be different. Even though they're exact same molecules, numbers of molecules, their physical arrangement is different. So the melting point is going to be lower in the cis form, and in the trans form is going to be higher melting point. And the boiling point, of course, is going to be different as well. Higher boiling point, meaning the temperature is going to be a higher temperature before it begins boiling as compared to a trans isomer. And then their packing, or their ability to go into a space as molecules. The cis isomer is loosely packed versus a tightly packaged molecule in the trans isomers. So those are just some characteristics that go with the cis and trans form, and they both appear in Hysop. So some properties that are specifically attributed to the cis pinecamphoan, but also will be present with the other molecules. And so usually, if you're looking at the activity of Hysop itself, you're going to have all those molecules present. The beta-pinene will be present too. So antifungal, antibacterial, larvicidal, and also being a deterrent to biting insects. Now notice that the beta-pinene has multiple forms as well in its molecular structure. So the beta-pinene is there's 2 forms of the beta-pinene on the lower 2 forms. So notice the double bonds stick up to the functional group. Or you can have, and it's not really a cis or a trans, but they have the bonds projecting above the plane or below the plane in the bottom 2 figures. In the upper 2 figures, we have the double bond inside the ring as opposed to outside on the functional group. So that's going to give different functions for those particular molecules, but the beta-pinene is the one that's present as opposed to the alpha in the Hysop plant. For the American Chemical Society laboratory, looking at pinene, it has a melting point of 311 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's found that other things as well, rosemary, sage, and pine, has kind of a green piney smell. Alpha pinene is more woodsy smelling. And the benefits of pinene, both alpha and beta pinene have benefits. The beta pinene is what is present in the highest quantity and exclusively in the hyssop. And that's going to be a bronchodilator, so that could be helpful for asthmatic situations. Pain relief, alpha and beta both function in pain relief, and anti-inflammatory. So it does have antimicrobial effects as well, but that may be coming from one of the other compounds. So some key properties for healing. They are antibacterial, antifungal, hyssop is, promotes emotional balance, it may aid in wound healing, mental alertness, help to reduce anxiety and worry, and is important in helping to detoxify, has anti-inflammatory roles, and also supports the respiratory system. So we saw that as a bronchodilator. We also noted in the previous slide that it was an antifungal. So the top picture here is actually showing a petri dish plate doing some research on various concentrations of a substance that's put in with some fungus and to see how well it clears at different concentrations. This happens to be a plate of allicin, which is from the allium family, garlic in particular, and at a 0.35 micromole per milliliter is our clear antifungal. So it actually has, at that concentration, it clears out the fungus that was used in this test. So we would see the similar type of testing going on for the properties in any compound. Down below is an antimicrobial, so they're using some kind of antimicrobial product, and you can see the clear horizons around the inoculation there on the left. On the right, you see some functioning better than others. So that could be different concentrations or even different compounds, but that's what it would look like when someone's looking for different compounds in the lab with a petri dish. They would inoculate, have a clear colony, then they would put on the substance that they're hoping to see if they have properties that could demonstrate the antimicrobial activity or antifungal activity, and look for these clearings of the gels, which would represent the fact that it's functioning that way. So again, you want to avoid this while pregnant. It can cause uterine contractions, that is the hyssop, use of hyssop. And again, it could be a convulsant actually if used in excess. So with everything, all these different essential oils and even natural products of any kind, you don't want to overdo it. You just want to use them in moderation, but you do want to use them in an adequate enough amount that they can have their bioactivity. So some additional ways that you can use hyssop essential oil can be helpful in respiratory condition relief. So it can help with relief of spasms and cough. So if someone has like just a persistent cough, a tickle in the throat, it can be helpful for that. It functions as an expectorant, which is something that breaks up the mucus and allows your body to clear it more easily. In our respiratory system, we have cilia, which are little hair-like projections, cells that have flagella on them in our lungs, in our bronchial tubes, and in our other tissues, airways that help to bring out debris, which would include mucus. Thick mucus could paralyze or make just very difficult to move it out. And an expectorant would thin it and allow it to be moved out more easily. Down deep in our lungs, there's transitional tissue, so we don't actually have cilia down deep in our lungs. But as it enters, the concentration decreases until there's none. So to use it, you can use it internally, add 2 to 4 drops to an herbal tea, and you can use it internally to help with cough relief and as an expectorant. And for lung inflammation, you can use it topically, apply it directly to the chest or the throat. It's also helpful as an infection prevention. You can use it on wounds and cuts as an antiseptic. It can help healing of the skin, so cuts and scars. Scars are reduced as scarring is reduced. Acne can help reduce the scarring potential from acne. Sometimes they get picked at and have scabbing that is associated with them, and can help heal up insect bites. Use it topically on the skin. Sometimes, any oil, you want to test it and make sure that you're not sensitive to it. This is not typically considered a hot oil, but if you have some sensitivity to it, you may want to use a carrier oil to make sure that it is not too intense for you. It has some anti-parasitic actions, so it functions as a vermifuge. So a vermifuge is a term for ridding a body of worms. So tapeworms, hookworms, flukes. You can see on the upper picture the white worm there is a tapeworm. Kind of it's a broad flat body, and they can be quite long. Sometimes they will lose segments as they drop off. Hookworms are typically enter through the feet in parts of the country where hookworms are prevalent. People who go barefoot can contract them. Then they enter the body, grab on, and can cause a series of inflammation effects. And then liver flukes, you have an intermediate host in snails, so they have an aquatic environment that they need to be close to in order for them to survive and move through. But liver flukes can also be rid of with the vermifuge action of hyssop essential oil. So use it internally, 2 to 3 drops in water or in a capsule would be a way to take it as well. So there are some circulatory benefits that hyssop provides. It improves circulation, and by improving circulation, you can improve conditions like gout, rheumatism, arthritis, swelling. It actually helps to lower the blood pressure because you have improved flow, can help relax muscles and reduce tension in muscles. Essentially, by improving the circulation, you improve the delivery of nutrients and oxygen to the tissues and improve the removal of toxins and byproducts of metabolism from those areas. So it's just an overall toning, improving of the circulatory system. So 2 to 3 drops in tea or hot water would be a way to take that internally for improving the circulatory system function. It can help reduce muscle spasms or pain. So this could be good after an athletic event or working in the backyard too hard. So the hyssop essential oil can help the muscles relax and prevent cramping. You can use it topically, 3 to 5 drops on the muscles affected, or you can use them 5 to 10 drops with the Epsom salt soak in a warm bath. So Epsom salts by themselves have their own benefits. It's a magnesium-based salt, so it soothes the skin, helps to relieve sore muscles, reduce stress, improves foot health when you're doing it in with the feet. It helps to pull toxins from the body. Essentially, you're creating a chemical gradient by having a higher concentration of salts that are going to pull things from the body as opposed to enter the body. So 5 to 10 drops of hyssop essential oil with Epsom salts in warm water in a warm bath can be helpful for reducing muscle spasms and pain. Also has immune system support. So we have a wide variety of systems that are part of our immune system. Our mucous membranes are our first line of defense, so they can capture bacteria and viruses and prevent them from getting in further into our systems. Lymphatic vessels and lymphatic nodes, lymph nodes, they're going to be functioning as filtering of the extracellular fluid. Our thymus, our skin, lymph tissue again, tonsils are part of the lymph tissue. Spleen, and of course the white blood cells, bone marrow and thymus and spleen are all involved in storing blood and the white blood cells. And those cells that are part of the immune system are the beta cells, antibodies, and we have neutrophils and macrophages and dendritic cells. So bacteria are going to be the enemy there that they're attempting to remove. And it's interesting that we all have a microflora and microfauna. We have good bacteria and bad bacteria. And the bad bacteria, we probably have bad bacteria in our bodies all the time, but they're kept in check. If there's something that gets out of balance with our diet or stresses, then they can proliferate and become toxic and in excess. But we have neutrophils, basophils, eosinophils, macrophages. So there's a couple that are not shown here of our white blood cells. They all work together through our immune system to help improve the activity. So it improves circulation, improves digestion, and helps inhibit infection through improved digestion, breaking down things that come in through our mouth that would go into our gut, because that's really the most intimate association of our bodies with the environment is through the food we eat, because it's really inside of us, down inside of our core. So you can use 2 to 3 drops of water in tea or hot water to help boost our immune system. Helping to maintain skin health, so it promotes new skin growth and regeneration. So the lower right is a picture of a scar, and if you use it before the scarring occurs, during the wound healing process, the regranulation of tissue, it can help reduce that scarring significantly. Also helps to minimize stretch marks and fights bacteria in the skin that could cause infection. So it helps just keep it antiseptic. So using it topically, you could dilute it with a carrier oil, or using on wounds and keeping your skin healthy, 2 to 3 drops with the carrier oil applied to the area that you have specific concern about. So again, the leaves are the part of the hyssop plant that have the oil extracted from them that are used in the essential oil of the hyssop plant. So some research surrounding hyssop, looking at the chemical composition and biological activity of essential oils of Dracocephalum, Heterophyllum, and Hyssopus officinalis from the Western Himalaya. So this is by Stepan et al. In the Natural Product Community in January 2015. March of 2002 in Plant Medicine, Liu et al. Looked at the muscle relaxing activity of Hyssopus officinalis essential oil on isolated intestinal preparations. So that was in vitro as opposed to in vivo. So in vivo would be in the actual living organism. And then in March 2008, Koch et al. In Phytomedicine looked at the inhibitory effect of essential oils against herpes simplex virus 2. So that was looking at a lot of different types of essential oils, but in our case here, they particularly noted that the hyssop was one of those that had an activity against the herpes virus, and herpes simplex virus 2. And that's very good to know. So as far as a fungal goes, antifungal, there was some note about it being helpful against Candida albicans as well, so against actually yeast infection. And there's other research out there too. Actually, when I was looking for the chemical compounds that were noted, it was a little bit difficult to find the chemical compounds that the system transforms initially. But with some digging, was able to find them. And yes, looking on Medline, they do have a variety of articles that have looked at the role of hyssop helping to maintain and keep health.
To be aware of new videos like this one, be sure to subscribe to the Preparing for the Time of Trouble channel. For more free videos and downloadable audio podcasts, as well as handouts, go to www.preparingforthetimeoftrouble.com. Topic categories include recordings of live seminar presentations, country living, sustainable gardening, homestead remedies, how to be self-sufficient when the grid goes down, wild edible and medicinal plants, hydrotherapy, and end-time Bible prophecies. To take advantage of these free resources, go to preparingforthetimeoftrouble.com.